Hello and welcome back to Aetheral Space 9.17 Silent Song. We are back.
Yes, welcome. So last time on Aetheral Space, I swear I read the last two, I'm just trying to remember everything that happened. So Helga got free, and Mila was like, babe, come with me, and Helga was like, sorry, I gotta go see Jean Lyons. And then she left Mila there. And then Muzazi came back and was like, Helga got out, sir. And he was like, why didn't you kill Mila? What was Jean Lyons' voice again?
It was kind of like this. It was very calm.
Kind of like this. Yeah, and he was like, why didn't you kill her? And he was like, I saw no need to. And he was like, that was the wrong answer, fuck boy. And then
You
Dragon
dropped
woke
your
up and he was
soy,
like,
Muzazi.
you made me look like a libtard in front of the Supreme. Oh my god. And then I lost my train of thought. Dragon woke up and Skipper was like, Roth sent some apartment somewhere and Bruno and Serena are healing up, or something like that. And then it went to 9.16, where... God, what happened in 16? I swear I read it.
You read this book hours ago.
Oh, wait, Aiden, was Aiden from Arc 2? Because that name sounded familiar. Yes. Was he like the guy that was like the little bitch boy?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he has a fedora now and is a detective. And he was like, Gertrude, I think I've discovered the criminal here. Let me handle this. And Gertrude was like, pried off her fingernail or some gross shit and was like, take this for power if you need it. And then, what happened after that? Help me out.
And then Skipper talked on the phone to the Apex Bishop of the Paradisus, who was like, fuck
Paradisus.
off. And he was like, I'll go back to
why did he even call... Why did he call Skipper just to say that?
Well, because otherwise he'd be waiting forever for the reply.
Also, why does Jean Lyons even want Helga back now that she's been burned?
Who knows? Who knows what thoughts lie behind that mask?
That's what the point of the mask is. And then there was some Skipper stuff at the end, but I also... Oh yeah, he was like, we're gonna do this the hard way now. Okay, I did it. See, I kept up with Aetheral Space. I didn't watch the videos, though I read it. So, yeah. Sorry, Tan. Hope you didn't cry too much all by yourself.
I was the one who dropped my soy.
That's right. I'm the alpha male here, and you're just a beta cock. Let's get reading, shall we?
Okay.
Oh, wait. Actually, because I didn't watch it, what was the fun fact last week?
I gave two fun facts. You weren't there. One of them was the ranking system of detectives in the Forgiveness Corps. It went. There's different sectors to it, but in terms of the investigation sector, is officer, detective, detective prestige, detective conquest, and chief.
Detective conquest? Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
I'm making fun of you for that. Alright, what was the other one?
The other one was about the Superbian burial policies that they're meant to be buried on the planet called the Velvet Palace, and that's where you go if you've done good for the church in your lifetime. And cremation is considered a very bad... Well, you weren't there for that one, so I know for a fact you were.
Okay, I know for a fact I was, because I remember learning about that. Perhaps you're mentally insane.
No, I know. I mentioned it in the chat, so I expanded on it in the fun facts.
Anyway, let's do this. This seems like a bad idea, Dragon said warily, eyes flicking around the place. Really? Skipper raised his eyebrows in mock surprise. Seems like a great idea to me. Yeah, Mr. Dragon, Serena chirped. It's a great idea. Ruth's unexpected growl put a quick end to their chit-chat. Can you all stop talking? She asked. It's tense here. We're being watched. Apparently, they hadn't had the rank or prestige to get aboard the Deus Nobiscum itself, so Skipper had instead taken them over to another Superbian cathedral ship, the Sainted Wormslayer. That's such a sick name. If it was any less extravagant than the main ship, Dragon certainly couldn't tell. There was a curious difference between Humanist and Superbian architecture. Even though the menagerie was huge, it still felt cramped, like the streets had been designed to create a crush of humanity, everything brushing up against everything else as it moved. In contrast, the Superbians seemed to take glee in spreading things out as much as possible, as if showing off the fact that they could afford to waste the space. The main hall of the Sainted Wormslayer was no different. As they walked down the center of the hall, pews were lined up on either side of them. Only a few occupied.
So that's a retcon, very quick retcon.
Each row. None occupied, with several meters between each row. The preaching plinth, as well, was considerably far away from where the actual procession would sit. No doubt speakers were suddenly placed throughout the room to carry the preacher's voice. There was no sermon going on right now, though, so Dragon supposed he wouldn't get the chance to find out. Serena looked up in great interest at the stained glass that covered the walls. Stylized murals of saints and folk heroes, messiahs and demons, legends and myths, coming from the supremacy. Coming from the supremacy, Dragon didn't recognize most of the stories he saw, but the light they cast over the room was magnificent all the same. Magnificent, but a tad malicious all the same. Not all the same's there.
Oh.
Perhaps Dragon was biased in thinking that. Remind me why we're here again? Dragon muttered, glancing at Skipper. Like I said, it seems like a bad idea. Skipper looked back at him, grinning. Like I said, one of the guys trying to kill us was wearing the uniform of the Quiet Choir, part of the suburban sect. The Quiet Choir operates out of places like this. Like I said, Dragon pushed on, why does that mean we have to come here? They obviously don't like us. What's the point of putting ourselves right in their grasp? He's right, Ruth said darkly. This is a bad idea. Nobody likes my ideas lately. Skipper sighed. You guys have got to get yourselves a more positive attitude. Or maybe you need to have better ideas, Dragon shot back. Skipper shook his head. No way. Dragon took another step forward, and as he did, he realized that there was someone with them. Someone standing right in the middle of their little group. A tall man with curly green hair, wearing flowing white robes. Can I help you, people? The man asked. Dragon froze. Serena whirled around. Ruth leapt back, perching on the end of a pew like a bird. Only Skipper remained relaxed. He took a few more steps back before turning on his heel, hands clasped behind his back. You certainly can!
He's doing the Soul Government pose, I just realised.
Yeah, the lean forward anime girl. Am I right in saying you're with the Quiet Choir, friends? The false friendliness on the man's face did not fade. His expression was so still that it almost looked like it was painted onto his face, if not for the moving of his mouth. That is indeed so, he said, nodding respectfully. I do have the honor of being counted among such an esteemed organization. Why do you ask, good sir? Skipper leaned back, switching posture into a cross of his arms. Wow, he said. Ain't that just swell? My nephew here, he pointed to Dragon. He just loves you guys. Huge fan. Buys all the video games. The Quiet Chorister, is that how it's said?
Yeah.
The Quiet Chorister cocked his head. Are you making a joke of me, sir? He murmured, the shadow of a threat in his tone. I wouldn't advise that. Skipper waved a relaxed hand. Not at all, not at all. I've got a lot of respect for your profession as well. I just wanted to ask real quick. The grin dropped from his face. How come you tried to kill me? Dragon glared daggers at Skipper. What the hell was he doing? This wasn't what they'd discussed at all. Was he trying to drag them into another fight? Again, though, the chorister was unflappable. Despite the accusation in Skipper's voice, the robed man just continued to smile genially. Pardon? He asked. I'm afraid you must be mistaken. You are not an individual we have marked for reprimand. I apologize for the misunderstanding. Oh? Skipper's lips curled into a smirk, already beginning the metamorphosis back into a grin. What? You know every single person marked for reprimand? Of course, the chorister smiled. Proper bookkeeping is essential for a healthy mind. You are mistaken. I'd thank you to leave now. Skipper stepped forward, lids falling halfway over his eyes, and stared the other man down. Some blonde kid with pigtails attacked us last night on the Aetheral beach, he said softly. Nearly killed me. Nearly killed my friends here. Now, how about you stop lying to me before I make you stop lying to me? For the first time, the serenity flickered away from the chorister's expression. The Aetheral beach, he echoed. Oh dear. I can't believe I'm crying. Silly, really.
Oh, Lord.
Whatever the fuck it was. Sorry, was that too much?
That was good.
I haven't thought of a voice for Aiden because
I've been thinking
considering
of
he was
voice.
the little bitch boy.
I've been thinking in my head. I've been writing him with So's voice.
Really? I kind of was almost thinking the same, but I didn't know if that'd be too much.
But maybe a
Let me
little
see if I
less
can
smug.
remember So's voice.
A tiny bit less smug. Still smug, but not as much.
Hey there. How you doing?
That's it.
Manuel have a rashi?
Aiden asked, marching into the hospital room. The mercenary looked up from his bed, grunting in affirmation. He wasn't especially old, but his hair had begun to turn gray all the same. The stresses of his occupation, perhaps. A petite goatee poked out from his chin. Security footage confirmed this man had been meeting with Mila Green right before she'd been ambushed by 2 unknown assailants. Manuel was a known quantity to the Forgiveness Corps, a notorious gun for hire. If he'd been meeting with Green, there was only one reason why. She'd had a job for him.
And who are you?
Manuel asked, eyes narrowed in suspicion. Aiden flashed his badge, his marker as a detective prestige, and immediately saw some of the tension drain out of Manuel's gaze. How did he rise the ranks so fast in 6 months?
Because he delivered Helga and that used that to get him big.
Ah, what a little bastard boy.
So his colleagues do not like him.
Ownership of a badge was its own form of strength. Merely by holding it out, people trusted in you. Lol, Aiden. Lamau. Manuel leaned back, head against his pillow.
What can I do for you, detective?
He said, relaxing slightly. There was still some trepidation in his tone, but that was fine. Aiden was someone to be wary of, for sure. Still, though, detective? He was a detective prestige. Had Manuel not read the badge? Aiden got straight to the chase, sitting down in the chair beside Manuel's bed.
You were involved in an incident last night,
he said matter-of-factly.
Ambushed in the street by an unknown swordsman and knocked unconscious. Is that right? You seem to already know it is,
Manuel spoke seriously.
Why bother asking me about it?
Aiden's eyes ran over the length of his bed. I realize I've kind of unintentionally made Manuel have the same voice as Pablo. From what he understood, 2 of Manuel's cohorts had not gotten off
Maybe
so
they're from the
easy.
same planet, it's the same accent.
Of course. They'd been found dead, but the head trauma the mercenary had suffered was nothing to scoff at. He even had a drip running into his arm, providing nutrients to keep him fed and anesthetic to keep him calm.
You were meeting with a woman named Mila Green at the time,
Aiden continued.
Why? What job did she have for you?
Mila Green? Manuel frowned before shrugging.
Don't know her. Think you might have some information mixed up, friend.
Aiden sighed, reaching into his pocket and bringing out the pin recovered from Manuel's personal effects. A golden spiral, like a serpent coiled around itself.
Mitose, right?
Is that how it's pronounced,
Yeah.
or is it Mitos, or...
Mitose, right?
Aiden said.
You guys take your business seriously, don't you? I've never seen one of these pins in person before. It's nice.
A sliver of caution entered Manuel's gaze as he shifted in the bed.
We're licensed to work in humanist space, sir, and we promise full confidentiality to our clients. If that information is what you are looking for, then I can't help you.
Aiden raised an eyebrow.
That information is key to apprehending a wanted criminal. Even so, my word is my bond.
Aiden's face slackened.
I see.
He reached into his pocket again, and once again pulled something out. A syringe full of bright, pink liquid. Manuel's brow furrowed as he looked at it.
What is that?
He asked, eyes flicking between Aiden and the syringe.
Oh, he used it! Wait, you used my
He
thing?
did.
I feel so flattered right now.
It's called Pixie Dust,
Aiden said, flicking the needle of the syringe with his fingers.
a drug. As the name suggests, usually it comes in the form of dust, but I managed to get this liquid form from evidence storage.
Manuel's voice was cold.
If you think a bribe of drugs would suffice to make me break my oaths, you are sorely mistaken. Oh, not at all.
Aiden leaned over and injected maybe a tenth of the pixie dust into Manuel's drip. Immediately, Manuel lunged forward to try and stop him, but the anesthetic had already done its work. You want to make it this
Thank
is.
you.
The movement was soft and sluggish, and all Aiden had to do to keep him restrained was plant a hand down in the center of his chest.
It's more potent in the liquid form,
Aiden said quietly.
but by no means harmful, at least not in such a small amount. At the most, you should be feeling your heartbeat accelerate a little. Maybe feel lightheaded. It doesn't need to go any further than this.
His gaze drifted to the syringe.
It can, though. A third of this syringe could do permanent damage to your nervous system. Where is Mila Green?
Manuel clenched his jaw. Don't know her. Sweat poured down the back of Aiden's neck. Despite the formidable facade he was putting on, he really had no desire to do this man harm. Why couldn't this guy just do the smart thing and give Green up? Why was he forcing Aiden to take such steps? He was no coward, though. If Manuel Havarashi was going to push him, he was going to push back. Aiden injected a sliver more of Pixie Dust, and Manuel's face began to turn red. Beneath his face, Aiden could feel the mercenary's heart beating a mile a minute.
Are you sure?
Aiden asked calmly.
Like I said, even just a third could ruin you. Come on, just tell me about Mila Green.
Manuel squeezed his eyes shut.
I met with her. She hired me. Us, yes. But I can't tell you more than that. Shame.
Aiden's finger brushed against the plunger again, but even just the threat of it was enough now. Manuel's eyes opened once more. Eyes opened again, wide, and he threw out a clumsy and ineffective arm in protest.
No, don't! He cried. For why's sake, man, I'll tell you!
Aiden released the syringe, letting it perch on the drip where it had pierced the tube, and smiled.
I appreciate it. What did she want you to do? She wanted help breaking into a ship. A rescue mission, she called it. Wanted us to bust out some woman being held there.
Manuel could not look him in the eye. That was only right with what he'd done. So Green had been wanting to break Helga Malwarian free all along. No wonder Gertrude wanted her dead. With this kind of treason, Aiden would have done it without being asked.
You realize that ship was official humanist property? He snapped. That you were betraying your own faith?
Manuel shook his head weakly, feverishly.
I didn't know. I didn't know. We didn't even start the mission. Those guys came and grabbed her. Took her. The two others, Aiden nodded. Who were they? I don't know.
Aiden's hand moved back to the syringe, just a few drops more, but enough to shake Manuel's resolve.
The Suburbians, he said through gritted teeth. They said they were from the Suburbians. I heard them talking before I fell unconscious. They mentioned it.
As Aiden had expected.
Thank you, he said. That's very helpful. How did Green contact you? How did Green contact you?
Manuel looked away, eyes narrowed in shame, his body shaking.
Disposable script, he slurred. Under the floorboards in my apartment.
Aiden smiled, letting go of the syringe.
That's excellent. I appreciate you taking the time out to speak with me. From what you've said, you've been involved in this against your will. I'll make sure no charges are placed against you personally. Mila Green is the one responsible.
He stood up, pushing the chair back, and turned to leave.
You're a disgrace,
Manuel hissed. Aiden stopped.
What did you say?
He asked, his fists clenched. Surely he hadn't just heard that. Surely, after the lengths Aiden had just said he'd go to keep this man out of trouble, he hadn't just said that. In the shadow of his mind, the hulking form of Samael Ambrosio Zakos towered over him, wild eyes staring down. Manuel was looking down on him just like that. Anger moved Aiden's body before anything rational could take hold. He stomped forward, seized hold of the syringe still embedded into the drip, and pushed the plunger all the way down, injecting every last drop. Immediately, he regretted it.
What did...
Manuel began before the capacity for words abandoned him, and he began seizing wildly in his bed. Why didn't he rip the drip out, you fool? Rip it out of your arm!
He's all
Manuel,
drunk, he couldn't
no!
move.
Wildly in his bed, pink bubbling drool coming from his mouth. Aiden went to pull the syringe out as if that would do anything, but no. No. As a matter of fact, he didn't regret it. There was nothing wrong with what he'd done. He hadn't had a choice. Manuel had forced him into it with those disrespectful words. I feel like this is kind of going to be a recurring theme with like his way of how he views what he did to Helga. He's like, I had no choice but to turn her in, of course. He hardened the horrified expression on his face into a sneer and took a step back. "You shouldn't have said that," he said, before turning again and marching out of the room, doing his best not to pay attention to the gurgling behind him. If people didn't respect you in this business, that was the end. He had done what anyone else would have done in his place. Manuel simply shouldn't have said that. As he went through the hospital door, Aiden spotted a nurse standing there, hands covering her mouth as she looked on in horror. He flashed his identification, and then, for good measure, stuffed a wad of bills into her grasp. Wealth, like a badge, was its own form of strength. Oh no, he's becoming Samael! The transformation has begun.
His arms start getting longer.
Ooh, my jaundice ate
Come
them.
on, no, please start.
Alright, it's all you, Bubby.
Oh, Serena's face tightened into Bruno as he leaned back in the pew, arms spread wide over the headrest behind him. There's a random maniac attacks the Aetheral beach, tries to kill us, and then he gets excommunicated? He recaps the information the chorister had given him. Then, you guys really believe that? Smells like bullshit, Dragon bitterly replied. Really? Skipper raised an eyebrow. Smells like soap to me. Someone's trying to wash their hands of the whole thing. Someone high up, since it takes a lot of influence to excommunicate someone. Ruth paced back and forth, arms crossed as the group talked. So the Superbians have it out for us. Could be, Skipper said, but his face was unsure. Oh no, though. Something doesn't feel right about it. If they do have it out for us, Dragon said, his voice hushed, shouldn't we get out of here? We're right in their hands. We shouldn't have come here in the first place. Agreed, Bruno nodded. We need to get out of sight. Did the Paradisus get back to you, Skipper? If they're with us, why are we still hanging out around here? We should just leave. Nah, Skipper sighed. Still waiting on the Paradisus. Dragon's eyes flicked over to Skipper, but the expression on his face didn't twitch. That was a blatant lie. Dragon had seen Skipper get a call from the Paradisus back at the hospital. Should he call him out? No, not yet. Discretion was the better part of valor. For the time being, Dragon kept his mouth shut. Still though, Skipper continued, cracking his neck, hanging around here probably ain't the most genius plan. You guys go get the slipstream ready, yeah? It was Dragon's turn to raise an eyebrow. You guys?
That's not what it said.
And what are you going to
It's
do?
a dragon's turn.
Really? Look again. Are you insane?
I must be going crazy.
Skipper jerked a thumb back over his shoulder towards the grand double doors the chorister had left through. Got a few more questions for our pale-robed friend. Should only take a couple of minutes. Call me when you're ready to go. Dragon considered arguing, but he honestly didn't recall an occasion where Skipper had responded to logical arguments. Instead, he simply sighed and got up. Fine, he said. Don't fuck around, though. Skipper's grin was so cheesy it was a wonder his teeth didn't twinkle. Never. The group split in two directions, Skipper heading for the doors deeper into the cathedral, Dragon and the rest heading for the exits. Their footsteps echoed throughout the great hall, interrupted only for a moment by the slamming of the doors behind Skipper. When the quiet returned, however, he was already infested by a new sound. The sound of skittering legs. The neighbouring pews exploded into wood and dust as two giant ants, the size of hounds, lunged out from beneath them. Transparent liquid dripped liberally from their mandibles, and they let loose a nearly unaudible screech as they charged at Ruth and Bruno, standing on either side of Dragon. They responded quickly. Bruno slammed his fist into one ant's head, and Ruth cleaved the other in half, but it did not have the result anticipated. Seconds after making contact with the massive insects, Ruth and Bruno simply vanished. Dragon spun around on the spot, looking for any sign of his friends. None. He was alone. Guys, he called out.
They got white whaled. Probably not. They probably got teleported, but it's sadder if I imagine they got white whaled.
Ruth fell on one knee as she reappeared out of the void, her claws already bared and ready as she looked up with a growl. She'd moved. This wasn't the same place. Instead of the grand architecture and stained glass of the cathedral, she was surrounded by pipes and hulking modules and blinking panels. The heat was excruciating. She'd only been here for a couple of seconds, yet her brow was already dripping with sweat. Some kind of maintenance facility? I will King Crimson back into it. She glanced to the side. Bruno was with her, rubbing his head. He clearly had a less convenient landing. Touching those bugs must have been some kind of teleport trap. Footsteps. Ruth's head snapped to face the direction of the threat. A man in a black sweater, stepping out the shadow of one of the machines. His eyes were closed, yet Ruth was certain you could see them. In one hand, he carefully held what looked like a deck of cards. In his other hand, he seemed to be holding a single card, although that dissipated into crawling yellow aether shortly after. "Utility card, Borrowant," he said, as if that explained anything. "Teleports those it makes contact with to the game arena. 2 of you, huh? I'm so popular."
I can already tell this is a character Tanhony loves because he gave them the Baelish voice.
No, that's the Pablo voice.
Oh, that's Pablo?
Yeah, he's got the closed eyes.
Nice. He's so Baelishy.
Well, he is a pretty Baelishy character. Click, click. Calm and measured footsteps echoed out from the entrance of the cathedral. The hand of death wrapped itself around Dragon's throat. There was no logical basis for it, but in that moment he knew he was in truly mortal danger. He should have called out. He should have called out for Skipper at least, but all he could do was dumbly turn up. A staircase led down into the cathedral. Now there was someone standing right at the top of it. Someone looking back down at Dragon. Luscious dark hair hung like a shroud around them. Their red and black robes as intricate as artwork. Their pale skin made them seem ghostly, ethereal, like a spectral vision Dragon was experiencing. Crimson eyes looked down at him like he was a piece of shit on a boot. "Dragon Hadrian?" the figure asked softly, in a voice that demanded worship. Dragon blinked. He didn't have time to answer. Giovanni's Sigma Testament threw a hand forward. First verse. He would waste no time when it came to vengeance. This time he fired 10 crystal spears at once, each one aimed at Dragon Hadrian's head, and each one aimed perfectly. The room exploded into light and chaos.
Guys, I'm going to make a prediction that Dragon uses Gemini World.
It's his standard technique.
Oh man, I'm excited though. I didn't think they'd encounter him so soon.
He wastes no time.
I'm wondering if this will be like we have to flee from him for now and then they fight him later, because this is like surprisingly early for what I assumed was going to be the final boss of the arc. So very curious to see where you go with this, but I liked it.
Thank you.
Now give me your fun fact.
So the Mitosi are mercenaries that operate in some parts, well, mostly in Humulus space, but also some parts of UAP space. They originated from a period in the Thousand Revolutions where a planet was under siege by the Gene Tyrants, and no one came to help except a group of reviled bandits, basically. And they broke the siege, saved the people, and in gratitude they were granted the office of the Mutose, and now they're sort of very respected mercenaries.
Oh, and they have a free pass in Humulus space.
Yeah.
Nice. Do they have a free pass anywhere else?
Some parts of UAP space.
Interesting. Fascinating, even. Alright, well, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time in Aetheral Space.
Bye!